Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics Squeeze. Yeah, that's right. The final Snake Man is here to finally complete that faction. So let's go ahead and check him out. As you can see, Squeeze comes in the standard Masters of the Universe Classics blister card packaging, complete with that Snake Man logo right there on the front of the blister. And just look at the way this figure is crammed into that box. Obviously, his gimmick is the fact that he's got these really long arms, and it's really funny seeing the way he's squeezed into that box. And then flipping it around to the backside, we get a look at some of the other figures in the Classics lineup and a brand new bio for Squeeze. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull this guy out of the packaging and take a closer look at him. You're going to notice right away that those arms are massive, and they're awesome. And we're going to take a closer look at those in particular in just a few moments. But let's go ahead and start by looking at the overall design of this figure. This new rendition of Squeeze is modeled after his vintage figure counterpart. In the 2000X cartoon series, he had a little bit of a remake where his head was more rounded and his hands were kind of like little snake heads on their own. So this is definitely going back to the vintage style where the head is in that much longer, almost alligator-like look, which I actually really like. And the hands on this are back to being normal hands. I definitely think this was the right way to go, but that's just a personal opinion of mine because I really like the vintage Squeeze action figure. This figure is so brightly colored. The green of his skin tone is almost a neon in color. And then the underside there, running down the under part of his neck all the way down his belly, is a nice lighter shade of green. And there is some really good variance in all the colors. That same lighter green, almost yellow color is running along the inside of his arms there. He's also sporting his bright purple armor there with the green Snake Man logo on it. He's got the orange trunks and then the silver boots and thigh guards there. One great thing about this figure is he's pretty much all a new sculpt. I mean, I'm looking this guy over and I see a lot of new parts here, which is really great. He's another figure who does not have removable armor. The torso there is all a solid sculpt, so you cannot remove the armor, but that works fine for a character like this. And look at all the scales on this guy. I gotta point that out. I love the detailing in the scales, running all down his head, his neck, his legs, and especially all the way down those bendy arms. And then he's also got those really great bracers on his wrists there that have the Snake Man logo on there, and they're painted in a beautiful two-tone orange with a nice metallic flare kind of detailing it. So, very cool looking sculpt with a gorgeous, bright and vibrant paint job. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Squeeze here. This guy is massive because of those arms, those long, bendy arms. So, before we play around with the arms, let's talk about the regular articulation on this guy. That head's on the standard ball joint. You can move it left, you can move it right, slightly up and down. It's a little loose on mine, but it's not too bad. And you can pull that off, just like with any of the other figures, so it's easy to pop on, pop off. You can do the head swap thing if you want to. And I gotta squeeze it back on. There we go. He's got that solid body piece there, so you can see you can't remove the armor. It's all solid sculpt, but you still have the torso crunch articulation. You got a swivel at the waist. The shoulders are still articulated like normal, and this is what's really nice about these. Listen. Do you hear that? You can hear it clicking a little bit? Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's got ratchet joints in the shoulders. And you can also still up and down too, and you can hear it kind of, maybe you can hear that, I don't know, but it's definitely got ratchet joints in there. That is really nice because with the really long rubbery arms, the ratchet joints are going to help the arms stay in place when you articulate them like that. So that is a fantastic design element. Otherwise, the legs are exactly what you would expect with the nice joints at the thighs there, so they can go outwards, forwards, backwards. They can swivel. You got your standard joint at the knee. There is no swivels at the boots on Squeeze here, and then he just has the standard ankle joints, and you can see pretty tight on my guy, which is also helpful to keep him standing. Now, Obviously, with the big arms, he's not always going to balance perfectly. And if you've got any sort of figure stand, that definitely helps keep him standing. You can still get some good poses out of him. And I was able to balance him pretty decently with the arms. There are just certain poses where, I mean, the weight is going to be a little bit too much. He's going to throw him off balance. But the arms here are fantastic. First of all, look at this. See how long this figure is? It was like over 21 inches, I believe, when I measured it. That's how long the span is between his arms when they're stretched out. And what's really nice is they are made of a very sturdy, rubbery plastic material. So unlike Snout Spout, who had the very soft plastic that has started deteriorating, this guy is much more akin to what we saw with guys like King Hiss. Feels a little softer than King Hiss's, but it's still very sturdy and very flexible. Look at this. I mean, you can really wind those arms all the way around. They do a really good job of holding their shape. You know, you got those ratchet joints, which really help for the display on there. And you can just really have a lot of fun with this guy, just bending the arms around. They don't feel like they're going to break. Very sturdy and incredibly fun. The arms work so well on this figure. Squeeze is definitely one of those figures that needed to have his vintage action feature, I think, and it was so well done on this guy. We've seen the bendy material before on guys like King Hiss and Snout Spout, and it's been done good and it's been done poor. I can honestly say that with Squeeze, it was done good. And it's so flexible. It's really great the way you can bend his arms around. You can get him in some great poses with that. He can wrap them around himself and give himself a hug. He can wrap them around his enemies to squeeze the life out of them. They are nice and solid, so they really hold their pose, and the ratchet joints in the shoulders really help to keep those arms outstretched. Now, in addition to the cool arm gimmick, he also does include one accessory, being this little snake thing, which is exactly the same piece that came with the vintage toy. It's done in a nice purple color there, and it's a really great sculpt, definitely paying homage to that vintage weapon, and it on its own has a little bit of flexibility. You can actually bend it around. It doesn't bend quite as well as Squeeze's arms, and it doesn't really hold its shape when you bend it, but it can be done, and you can kind of wrap it around his arm and put it in his hand there. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know exactly what this accessory is. I never knew what it was in the vintage line, but hey, cool to see it back. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's a look at this new Squeeze standing alongside his vintage figure counterpart so you can see the likeness between the two as well as the updates. And here he is standing alongside the 2000X NECA Staction so you can see the differences between the two designs. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the final Snake Man Squeeze. Another excellent figure in this lineup, and he's another one of those guys who has so many unique parts that I'm glad to finally see him joining the line here. It completes one faction in our group, and he's also one of my personal favorite Snake Man figures because he's got such a cool look with such a neat gimmick, and all of that was pulled off so well on this brand new figure. Squeeze is part of the 2015 Club Eternia subscription and will be available in June on MattyCollector.com. So happy hunting, my friends. And special thanks to Mattel for sending this along so we can take a look at it early. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.